Welcome into the Rock Talk Studio, your one-stop destination for reviews of rock and roll books and documentaries. And in the next 15 minutes, I've got 3 key questions I'm going to answer about today's spotlight title, the book Prince and Purple Rain, 40 Years. Number 1, is this book worth your time and money? Number 2, who is this book actually for? Hardcore fans, casual fans, or maybe even both? And number 3, if this book does strike a chord, where does it stack up with other titles that came out this year? I'm your host, Big Rick. Join me for an exclusive look into what's hitting the shelves and the screens, and get ready to rock your reading and viewing list. Prince and Purple Rain, 40 Years. Now, this book has unique written all over it, and that's for one main reason, and that is the mind-blowing story of the author Andrea Swenson and her relationship with Prince. One day, Swenson picks up the phone and was summoned to Paisley Park, Prince's residence and studio. She did a review of one of his shows, and Prince really liked it, so he asked to meet her, and because he liked what she was doing, the way she was writing about him, he asked her to continue writing reviews about his work, which she pretty much did throughout his whole career. The advantage of being able to spend time with and around Prince offered her a very, very unique view that only few could get, and this coffee table style book is built on that unique perspective. Swenson claims if Prince was alive, he would have shot her the side eye when this book came out. Prince really wasn't one for looking back. She shares a story of the 30th anniversary of Purple Rain. She was with Bobby Z, who was the drummer of the band The Revolution that played on Purple Rain, and they went to a local radio station to discuss the 30th anniversary. After the broadcast, Swenson gets another summons to Paisley Park, and Prince really wasn't that interested in celebrating the 30th anniversary and really wasn't too pleased with Bobby and her talking about it, and he made a few comments to her and then just turned around and led him to the studio, where he cranked up his new music that he was working on, and he was trying to make a point. He wanted to make sure they knew he was looking forward, and he really wasn't interested in reminiscing on the past. I don't know. Sorry, Prince. We need to celebrate the past, especially with an album of this stature, and this book is definitely a celebration. It goes through so much, so quick, it's staggering. Not only do you get this magical moment in the life of Prince, but Swenson also gives a detailed chapter to each member of the Revolution, Prince's band, that he put together for what he wanted to convey. The interviews that she has put together for this contain their thoughts about what it was like recording and performing with Prince, how they were recruited into the band, and how they all handled sudden stardom once the movie came out. With only 170 pages to tell the story, I thought the author took a really interesting gamble with the beginning of this book. Instead of jumping right into Purple Rain, she offers bite-sized chapters about the intent in Prince's first 5 albums that lead up to Purple Rain. She makes it a point to show how Prince grew as an artist and crystallized, that was her words, his Minnesota sound. I really liked how a few of the major players early in his life, they get enough of a mention that you can really see how Prince didn't want to be limited in his sound or his look, and especially his reach. The chapters, and most of them are just one page, show how Prince was continually growing his sound and his vision. It's a fast read, but it carries just enough of the right context and background to serve as a perfect primer, almost a calm before the Purple Storm. Sorry, I had to throw in at least one Purple reference. And props to Swenson for being able to create engaging chapters while using just minimal space. The book does a great job of using the words of Prince's former bandmates to expand on Prince's almost nonstop songwriting during the Purple Rain period. Each member gets a chapter, and it fills out their personal story. It adds depth to the narrative. Like the single chapter dedicated to each band member, each song also gets a chapter. The book also features chapters on the B-sides of the songs that didn't make the album. But for fans of Prince, some of these songs line up as some of his greatest work, so it's great to get a little insight on those songs too. The pictures throughout the book, man, they're incredible. They really take the story over the top. Tremendous shots of historic concerts, different memorabilia. There's a couple really cool shots of the original synthesizers that Prince used. Marketing materials are in there from the movie. A really nice added touch was accompanying some of these pictures with quotes from Prince. That was really cool. They used quotes from Prince's unfinished memoir, The Beautiful Ones, to just add even more depth to the pictures. No one has ever written a soundtrack and filmed a movie about those songs on this level, not even close. The book does a great job of laying out how he was able to parlay these songs into his vision of a movie. Think about it. Not only did he write one of the greatest albums of all time, but he also wrote and starred in one of the biggest rock movies of all time. This book gives Prince all the credit he's due by not only creating a visual portrait of this iconic rock and roll moment, but by also using Swenson's lifelong backstage past to tell a tale only she could. Prince and Purple Rain, 40 years. And coming up next, I'm going to rate this book. And this book gets a rating that's different than any other rating I've given out in the 30 shows that I've done over this last 2 years. It gets an asterisk. Before I jump into the rating of the book, I just wanted to give you the update on my quest for 25 5-star reviews on my Apple Podcast. So if you're new to this show, welcome in. Thanks for joining me. What I'm up to is I'm trying to get 25 reviews on Apple Podcasts, 25 5-star reviews. I started at 12 a couple weeks ago, and I'm pleased to announce that I'm currently at 18. So thanks everybody who's been kicking in. I only need 7 more. 7 rock and rollers. Stand up, support Rock Talk Studio. Please, just a 5-star review. You don't have to write a novel in there, just a few lines, but I'm looking for 7 more to get me to 25. And the reason behind that is it just makes the show stand out a little bit more when people are browsing for a new show. I like that number 25 as a number that I look for when I'm looking at for new shows. And it also helps with my ranking. So if anybody can help me out with this, I'd really appreciate it. And I would thank you very, very much. All right, let's dig a little deeper into this book before we get to the asterisk rating of the book. I wanted to point out a few more things and give you as much info on possible to see if this book is for you. Let me start by mentioning the packaging of this book, because that in itself really sets us apart. It is beautiful. It's the first thing you see, the visual. When I first took it out of the box, I was in awe. It comes in a purple velvet slipcover that gives the book a really classy feel. Great touch for all that is contained in this. I really thought they did a great job with the packaging. Packaging A+ all the way. And the book starts with a heartfelt kind of gushing forward from Maya Rudolph, the actress, a huge Prince fan. She even has a Prince tribute band she plays in. I didn't know that. But the forward sets the stage for the love of Prince and Purple Rain. And following the forward is an introduction by the author where she lets you know right up front that this is a love letter to Prince. And with that said, if you're a Prince fan, this is a pretty much must-have. And taking it a step further, I think any fan of rock and roll is going to enjoy this. It's a monumental moment. It changed so much. This is a really great book. All right, let's jump into the rating now. I'm going to do something I've never done before on this podcast. Actually, 2 things I've never done before on this podcast. Number 1, I'm going to rate a coffee table style book. And number 2, I'm going to put an asterisk on the rating. How do I compare it to a standard read? I had to really think this one through. The Rock Talk Studio rating of Prince and Purple Rain, 40 years. Next. Okay, the asterisk on the rating. The asterisk on the rating is because it's a coffee table book, and I've never reviewed a coffee table book, so I've got to put that on there because it's a little bit different from a normal read. No doubt about it. This is the first time in over 2 years of rating rock and roll books that I'm going to do this. So people have requested I review their books all the time, and I get pretty picky. Coffee table style books are a little challenging because I'm really more into about the writing, and that's what this podcast is about. So I want to remain loyal to my commitment to what I'm presenting. I'll tell you what, let's do this. Shoot me an email at info@rocktalkstudio.com and let me know. Let me know if you want me to review more coffee table style books, and I'll definitely look into it. Okay, if you're new to the show, here's how I rate rock and roll books. It's a 1 through 4 system. A 1, that is the Mecca. That's front row center. It's a unique book, something that's very rare, sets itself apart from others. One of a kind, instant classic, front row center. A 2 is a floor seat, highly recommended with a ton of reasons why it's a don't miss read. 3 is a load seat. That's good. There are things that I enjoy about it, things that, aren't the best, but it still could be a decent book. And 4, you're in the nosebleeds, baby. You get everything with this book. Backstory, the creation of the songs and the movie script, all the major players involved. You get the premiere, the aftershock of the movie and the way it touched so many lives. This is such a beautiful put together package, and one that in the end, I'm glad that it represented itself in a coffee table style book. This book deserves the first class treatment, and that is what it definitely got. And first class is definitely what this book is. Prince and Purple Rain gets a 2. It's a floor sit. You're right up front. It's a great book. You're right there. I highly recommend anyone checking out this book. I really enjoyed it. Prince and Purple Rain, 40 Years by Andrea Swenson. Do not miss this one. Next week, it's a book review of an iconic bar in rock and roll history, located in a most unlikely place. I know that kind of narrows it down a little bit. There are a lot of legendary rock and roll bars in rock and roll history. Okay, here's a clue, or actually 3. Bruce Springsteen, Stephen Van Zandt, and Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. Thanks for tuning in. Love talking rock and roll and getting a chance to recommend a title for you. Just because the episode is over does not mean the conversation is. You can join me on Instagram. I'm on Threads, YouTube, Facebook for more book and doc talk. All right, tear it down, pack it up, and head on down the road. We'll see you next time in the Rock Talk studio.